We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Trump lambasted Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei, says he would bomb Iran if nuclear activities restart. Also drops plan to lift sanctions. US Supreme Court limit judges' power to halt Trump's birthright citizenship order. Trump calls it a monumental victory for the Constitution. Congo and Rwanda signed long-awaited peace deal in Washington, raising hopes to end years of conflict with roots in Rwanda's 1994 genocide. Indian women's cricket team begin crucial England tour with a 5-match T20 international series. And on to the details. US President Donald Trump sharply criticized Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, saying that he would consider bombing Iran again if Tehran is enriching uranium to worrisome levels, and also dropped plans to lift sanctions on Iran.
And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God. Won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in his country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. And Israel was beat up too. They were both beat up.
Well, Trump reacted sternly to Khamenei's first remark after a 12-day conflict with Israel that ended when the United States launched bombing raids last weekend against Iranian nuclear sites. Trump said at a White House news conference that he did not rule out attacking Iran again when asked about the possibility of new bombing of Iranian nuclear sites if deemed necessary at some point. US President Donald Trump also said that Iran wants to return to negotiations on its nuclear program a week after its main uranium enrichment facility and other sites were hit with devastating US airstrikes.
So Iran wants to meet. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were, now has been proven. We had some fake news for a little while.
Well, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi condemned the disrespectful and unacceptable comments from Donald Trump after the US president claimed to have saved Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei from an ugly and ignominious death. The former minister's condemnation on Saturday came after Trump said on his Truth Social platform that he had saved the Iranian leader from assassination, accusing Khamenei of ingratitude. Well, the Republican-led U.S. Senate rejected a Democratic-led bid on Friday to block President Donald Trump from using further military force against Iran, hours after the president said he would consider more bombing. The Senate vote was 53-47 against a war power resolution that would have required congressional approval for more hostilities against Iran. Under U.S. law, Senate war power resolutions are privileged, meaning that the chamber had to promptly consider and vote on the measure which Senator Tim Kaine introduced this month. And U.S. President Donald Trump voiced optimism about a new ceasefire in Gaza as criticism grew over morning civilian deaths at Israeli-backed food distribution centers in the territory.
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to, I mean, you have to. We're, in theory, not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying.
Well, the United States brokered a ceasefire in the devastating conflict in the waning days of former President Joe Biden's administration with support from Trump's incoming team. Israel broke the ceasefire in March, launching new devastating attacks on Hamas, which attacked Israel on October 7th, 2023. And moving on, the U.S. Supreme Court handed President Donald Trump a major victory on Friday in a case involving birthright citizenship. Supreme Court curbed lone judges from blocking the Republicans' raft of controversial policies. The court said individual district judges had likely exceeded their powers by issuing nationwide injunctions, which have also blocked a string of Trump's hardline policies on immigration, diversity and firing federal employees. The 6-3 ruling stemmed from Trump's bid to end birthright citizenship. It changed the power balance between the federal judiciary and presidents. Trump directed federal agencies to refuse to recognize the citizenship of U.S.-born children who do not have at least one parent who is an American citizen or lawful permanent resident, also known as a green card holder. The ruling also did not address the legality of the policy, part of Trump's hardline approach towards immigration. Trump called the ruling a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law.
Big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision, an amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour.
Well, immigration lawyer and scholar Charles Cox said this ruling gives the president an enormous amount of power to basically rewrite federal law.
Well, this gives the president an enormous amount of power to basically rewrite federal law. That's what this executive order does. It tries to rewrite federal law and the ability of citizens to stop that from happening. There's been a lot of movement towards the unitary executive theory over the last 40 years or so. And this seems to be the capstone, basically saying the courts don't have the power to stop the executive branch from carrying out whatever the executive branch wants to carry out. Some would say it speaks of dictatorship authority. We'll see what happens over the course of the next several weeks. Really, we'll learn very quickly how the Trump administration is going to interpret this.
Well, the U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday said he will not halt trade talks with the European Union. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump called the EU talks tough but said they would continue. The July 9th deadline for a tariff deal with the EU is approaching.
Well, they've been very tough. The European Union was formed in order to take advantage of the United States on trade. That was why they were formed, and they're nasty. They're very nasty. We have a good relationship. I'm dealing with Ursula right now and the group, but it's a very tough situation. They have been unbelievably bad to us. If you look at past precedents, they've treated them very badly. They're being very nice to me because I get it. I know the system, and we have the cards. We have the cards far more than they do.
Well, Trump has described Canada as a difficult partner for years. He abruptly cut off trade talks with Canada on Friday over its digital services tax on American tech companies. He called the tax a blatant attack and said new tariffs on Canadian goods would be set within a week. The move disrupts recent calm after a June G7 meeting where Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney agreed to finalize a trade deal within 30 days. Canada plans to start collecting the tax on Monday.
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. You know, we hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today trying to copy Europe. You know, they copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act.
Well, Canada plans to start collecting the tax by Monday, though Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said negotiations will continue in the best interest of Canadian workers and businesses.
Continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interest of Canadians. It's a negotiation.
Well, U.S. President also criticized Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell on Friday, saying he would like him to resign. He called Powell stupid and blamed him for keeping interest rates higher than he wants, saying rates should be at 1%.
Everybody says it, not only them. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The only thing is we have a Fed chairman that is, he doesn't get it. And you could have substantially low. Like if we cut him 2 points, would save more than 600, think of it, more than $600 billion just because you cut. But you can't go out to the market and say, well, we have a guy that's got us at 4% or 4.5% and we want to pay 2% or 1%. I think we should be paying 1% right now. And we're paying more because we have a guy who's, suffers from, I think, Trump derangement syndrome, if you want to know the truth. But he's not good for our country.
Well, moving on, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a U.S.-brokered peace agreement aimed at ending the fighting in eastern Congo that has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands. At a ceremony with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, the two African countries' foreign ministers signed the agreement, pledging to implement a 2024 deal that would see Rwandan troops withdraw from eastern Congo within 90 days. The conflict in eastern Congo has been fueled by the presence of Rwandan troops supporting the M23 rebels who seized key cities and mining areas earlier this year.
These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal.
With the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments.
We think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars, it's not just about saving lives, it's about allowing people to live. We're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day.
Whereas the U.S. President Donald Trump hailed Rwanda and Congo foreign ministers at the Oval Office after the signing of a peace deal that would put an end to a 30-year-old conflict between the two countries.
So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace. And this is a long time waiting, the signing of a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda.
Well, global leaders also hailed the U.S. brokered deal between Rwanda and Congo, calling the agreement as a historic step forward. French President Emmanuel Macron took to X and said, and I quote, "The peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda with the support of the United States is a historic step forward after decades of suffering. To the Congolese and Rwandans, France sends a message of hope," unquote. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed the agreement and called it a significant step towards peace after the two countries signed a deal to end fighting that has killed thousands. Guterres, in a statement, said that the agreement is a significant step towards de-escalation, peace and stability in the region. He also urged both countries to honor in full their commitments taken under the peace deal. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Jaishankar speaks with Iranian counterpart amid regional tensions, thanks Iran for helping evacuate Indian nationals. Delhi waits, country drenched, India's monsoons set to cover entire country. And we'll show you wedding photos of Sanchez and Bezos as multi-day Venice celebration dazzled with star power and billion-dollar impact. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Kuran. And moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the centenary celebrations of Acharya Vidyanand Ji Maharaj in New Delhi on Saturday. The program marked the commencement of a year-long national tribute being organized by Government of India in collaboration with Bhagwan Mahavir Ahimsa Bharati Trust to honor the 100th birth anniversary of Acharya Vidyanand Ji Maharaj. Acharya Vidyanand Ji Maharaj was a revered Jain spiritual leader and social reformer. The year-long celebration will include cultural, literary, educational and spiritual initiatives across the country aimed at celebrating his life and legacy and spreading his message. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also released postage commemorative stamps and coins on the occasion of the 100th birth anniversary of Acharya Vidyanand Ji Maharaj during his centenary celebrations. And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Thursday held a telephonic conversation with Iran's Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi to discuss the ongoing regional developments amid ongoing tensions. Sharing on a social media post X, Jaishankar wrote, and I quote, "Spoke to FM Syed Abbas Araghchi of Iran, appreciate his sharing Iran's perspective and thinking in the current complex situation. Thanked him for facilitating the safe evacuation of Indian nationals," unquote. During the conversation, Jaishankar also expressed gratitude for Iran's assistance in facilitating the safe evacuation of Indian nationals. And moving on, in a significant step towards enhancing India-Zimbabwe relations, Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh met with Zimbabwe's Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife, Evelyn Ndolovu, in Harare. The two leaders discussed expanding bilateral cooperation, particularly in the areas of environmental protection and wildlife conservation. The leaders decided to work together to mitigate the challenges of climate change. The minister met with the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, to discuss the bilateral relations between India and Zimbabwe. They emphasized the importance of strengthening and deepening the ties between the two nations. The president affirmed that the historical relationship between India and Zimbabwe remains strong. Early on Friday, Kirti Singh held a meeting with Eamon Murvira, Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe, acknowledging that it is a favorable time to explore new avenues of cooperation between both nations as they enhance and deepen the age-old people-to-people linkages. Zimbabwe's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade also highlighted that Zimbabwe and India are intensifying their bilateral cooperation, focusing on expanding trade, improving healthcare support, and promoting industrial development and investment. Well, despite its swift advance across most parts of the country, the southwest monsoon has unexpectedly stalled just short of the national capital region, delaying its arrival over Delhi. According to the Indian Meteorological Department, the monsoon, which normally reaches Delhi by June 27th, is now expected to take another 2 to 3 days to cover the city and the remaining parts of western Rajasthan. This delay comes even as the monsoon has already spread across large swathes of northwest India, including Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Jammu and Kashmir. Elsewhere in the country, Kerala, South Interior Karnataka and Assam continue to receive very heavy to extremely heavy downpours. And the famous Rath Yatra of Hindu Lord Jagannath in India's eastern state of Odisha's Puri resumed on Saturday morning. After it was halted on Friday due to sunset, the Rath Yatra was resumed with a Yagna ceremony. The three chariots, Nandi, Ghosh, Lord Jagannath, Darpadalan, Goddess Subhadra and Taladhwaj, Lord Balabhadra, will be pulled again from Rathkala to the Grand Road, that is Bara Danda Marg. There is a wave of excitement among the devotees to welcome the Lord with chants of Jai Jagannath. The Puri district police and administration have made special preparations for crowd management, additional police force, AI-enabled CCTV cameras, drone surveillance, medical staff and water have been arranged so that the second phase of the festival can be completed smoothly. And on to some business news. California will raise its annual film and TV tax incentives to $750 million. That is more than double the current $330 million in a bid to stop productions from moving to other states and countries. The legislature passed the measure on June 27th, with Governor Gavin Newsom expected to sign it soon. Supporters say the move is key to saving jobs and keeping Hollywood vibrant. Filming in Los Angeles dropped to near record lows in 2024, with over 17,000 jobs lost since 2022. Producers like Uri Singer say LA still has huge creative advantages and the new boost may help reverse recent declines. And in sports news, Indian women cricket team is set to face England in the first T20 international of the 5-match series on Saturday. India will be keen to internalize the conditions and character of venues in England ahead of next year's World Cup. The ICC's showpiece is almost a year away, but this series is a perfect stepping stone after India's disappointing group stages exit in the last edition. Apart from the return of explosive opener Shafali Verma, India has added some new names such as Kranti Gaur, Sri Charani and Sayali Sadkare to its squad. Well, Australia secured a massive 159-run win over West Indies in the first Test match on Saturday. Australia's superb batting had put them in a strong position from the start. Beau Webster and Travis Head forged the match's first century partnership. Alex Carey also scored a well-compiled half-century. West Indies was dismissed for 141, chasing a formidable target of 301. Nathan Lyon swept the tail, while Josh Hazelwood's 5-wicket masterclass broke the host's resistance on a pitch that turned into a bowler's paradise. With this win, Australia has taken a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. And the International Cricket Council announced new power play rules for shortened T20 matches with a clearly defined number of overs and fielding restrictions. As per the new rules effective from July, a reduced game of 8 overs in an innings would have 2.2 overs of power play with only 2 fielders outside the 30-yard circle. For every over, 2 balls of power play will be counted. For instance, for a 5-over innings, 1.3 overs will be a power play, whereas a 6-over innings will have 1.5 overs of power play. And Carlos Alcaraz will start his Wimbledon defense against Fabio Fognini, while world number 1 Jannik Sinner faces a potential clash against Novak Djokovic following Friday's draw. Spain's Alcaraz, who has beaten Djokovic in the past 2 finals, arrives at the All-England club on a career-best 18-match winning streak. He's aiming to become just the 5th man to win at least 3 straight Wimbledon titles in the Open era. On the women's side, reigning champion Barbora Rexikova begins a campaign against 2025 breakout star Alexandra Iala on centre court. That's all we have for you in this bulletin, but we will leave you with this story from Venice, Italy, where Lauren Sanchez shared a photo of a wedding to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. The couple welcomed hundreds of VIP guests for a multi-day celebration, reportedly costing over 40 million euros. Take a look. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.